So I'm Dave Coplin. I'm Chief Envisioning Officer for Advertising and Online for Microsoft, which basically means I get to think thoughtfully about what technology is going to be when it grows up. It was kind of obvious I was going to end up at Microsoft because my passion, the whole reason I get out of bed in the morning, is I care about how technology affects society. So what are we as a modern society going to use technology to do? How's it going to help our lives? How are we going to become better people as a result? In my opinion, there's one place that you can really see all of that. That's inside Microsoft, and that's kind of why I'm here and why I do what I do. Microsoft's just this incredible place, right? So people mostly know us for things like Office and Windows, and increasingly people kind of care less about Office and Windows because you take them for granted. What you forget is behind Office and Windows inside the organization is this incredible breadth. You know, we spend more on research and development than any other company on the planet. So we have ideas and thoughts and opinions on every aspect of how technology touches lives, whether it's what's the right way for kids in class to learn about technology, not products, but the principles that make technology important. How do you help a growing economy, small and medium business? How do you help them become, realize their full potential, and what role does technology have to play? So opinions on such a broad range of topics, and that's where I think Microsoft's future lies. And people often, I actually work for the search engine part of Microsoft, so I work for Bing, and they often will talk to me. So in the future, what's going to be the difference between Bing and Google? Well, the answer to that question is actually not in front of us. It's not in the future, it's in the past. And if you look at our heritage is this incredible breadth of technology understanding and research and just a desire to do good with all the potential that technology has to offer. And that will filter through to everything that we do. So I think it's a really exciting point for Microsoft. People talk about us less because it's all about, the internet, sort of primary internet companies, but they forget, we've been around a long time, we've learned a lot of lessons, and we're pretty smart when it comes to what technology means to people and how they want to sort of live their lives every day. The internet, almost unbeknownst to everybody, has fundamentally changed in what it does. When it started out, it was a series of pipes, then it was about connecting pages and links, and it was about finding stuff. Do you remember when all you ever did on the internet was like look up stuff? What's the migration habits of the southern African swallow? Well, I don't know, we'll find out, Whereas now we use the internet to do stuff. Yeah, we still want to find out information, but actually a lot of it is about, I don't just want to find more out about the camera, I want to buy the camera. I don't want to find out about the holiday destination. I want to book the holiday. And so as the internet becomes more about doing, our usage of it, whether it's as a consumer or a brand or an advertiser, has to change. And if we're still thinking about it as a collection of pages and links and pipes, we're actually in the wrong space. We're completely underestimating the power of what the tool can do, what the technology can do. And so I think the opportunity for us going forward is to think about how could that really help our brand? What could we do with that stuff to make a difference? And that's where you get into wonderful things like social and context and personalization and all those beautiful things that we're going to get into in the future. Well, I think it's completely changed the way we do business. And what I love about it is it's almost like a leveler. So you can be quite a small organization and yet have a massive global presence. And I think that's really important, especially in these kinds of economic times, not just for the UK, but for many countries. The internet provides a capability for businesses to grow and flourish and to be greater than the sum of their parts, to be truly global companies sat in the middle of, deepest, darkest Wales, for example, if they ever get the bandwidth. But it really changes the way we think about that. As consumers, we behave completely differently as well. And what's really interesting in that is you'd think that we would become sort of global citizens, and actually it drives a really localized behavior. So I can see what everybody else gets around the world. I then care more about what happens to me locally. I want to access those services locally. I want to build up this richer picture of what sits around me locally and access those services. So it actually works on a couple of different levels, which is great. So over the next year, I think we can see a lot of the trends. Whether we understand them to the extent we should is another question. So pick a classic example. Everybody talks about social, and they talk about the importance of social. What people don't typically talk about is what is the importance of social. It's just not people, sending stupid comments to each other. Just had the world's best coffee, LOL. That's nothing to do with social. Social's about the connections that get made. There's this thing called the social graph, which for us, the way we think about the social graph is it has the potential to humanize the web. So if I can tap into the social graph, all of a sudden, I've got this rich, warm human signal that can provide value to what I'm trying to do. There are times when that works better, there are times when it works less well. But actually, if you think about social in those terms rather than tweets and Facebook likes and all that, fundamentally different place. And so I think we'll understand more about what social means and how it humanizes the web going forward. I think there are other areas, things like, for example, big data. That's this word that sort of technology companies like us like to throw around, but it's actually really important. We have now access to more and more data, and not just access to sort of huge data sets, but we have the ability to connect them together and start doing interesting things with them. And this enables us to really take a couple of different views. One is we can take a more systemic view. So if you have lots of data about a topic, you can think more thoughtfully about, what does that mean? You take in more, data. My favorite example is if you take a systemic view to the environmental impact of cars on the world. Two examples are Toyota Prius, a Land Rover Defender. If you take a systemic view, actually the Land Rover Defender is better for the planet than a Toyota Prius, simply because over 75% of all Land Rovers ever made are still on the roads. From a dust-to-dust perspective, from the minute that they're created, all the components, to the minute that they're thrown in the scrapyard, actually the impact is far, far less than this thing that is, Toyota, which is brilliant on a day-to-day basis. Systemic data lets you change those conclusions. So this concept of big data is going to change the way we think about many things. It's going to enable us to be much more precise about the services that we provide, our insight into consumer behavior, all those sorts of things. It will also cause us to change the way we think about humanity as well, which is kind of scary. Lovely study that was done in the northeast US last year, which studied the cell phone usage data of about 50,000 people over 3 months, every phone call they made, where they were at the time, and all that sort of stuff. And they found with smart maths they could predict the future location of people with 93% confidence. So, you're probably like me thinking, I live this wacky random lifestyle, I don't know where I'm going to be next week. In reality, yeah, you do, actually. 93% says you're going to be there, Wow. So data is going to provide all of this insight that's going to be scary, powerful, and we have to think about what it means, how we deal with that. It's obviously going to lead to conversations about privacy. What do we have to do about privacy? That's going to be the big battleground for consumers, for brands, advertisers, technology companies. We've got to figure out what's the right way forward in that space. So all of these things sort of come together in one to make one big problem. We're going to have to break it down and sort of take the components individually, but it's going to be a really, really interesting time. Well, it's a great opportunity for us to really help people understand how the world is a bit different to how normal people are perceiving it. And so, lots of the things we've already talked about. I worry about, so we do talk a lot about social, and people think, oh, it's about how do I engage my audience, and actually that's interesting, but the real thing is about this humanization. So what are you going to do with your brand or your advert or your service to really bring that humanization to life? If you think about it in those terms, what else can you do? So it's a great opportunity for us to meet with a really lovely audience, a really engaging audience, and not so much provide answers. None of these are about answers. It's actually about a dialogue. So we really want to strike up a debate, and internet world is by far the best place for us to do that.